There we go.
All
Love your
right.
shirt. Love your shirt. You have amazing taste.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you. I know I bought it just for you. All right.
By the
So
way,
thank
I don't
you.
get a dime from those shirts. I don't even know who's selling them.
Well, I just bought it off of Amazon. So,
That's cool.
all right. Well, thank you for being here with us, Mark. We really appreciate you taking the time out of your day
Yeah.
to talk with us and to answer questions and to just have a good time.
Yep.
So, we originally kind of discovered you from watching your documentary, the Behind the Curve one that came out, what, 2018, 19, something like that.
Yep. Something like that.
Um, But we loved it. We thought it was hilarious. We're doing kind of topic. What we were kind of researching more or less was doing scientific literacy, kind of develop your own scientific thought, and we
Sure.
kind of just took a deep dive into flat Earth when we were doing that. But we watched your documentary. We loved it. We love you. We think you're funny.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. But we appreciate you taking the time to answer questions for us.
Uh-huh.
Is there anything you would like to say before we get started with anything?
Yeah, it's not even 6 in the morning here, guys. So you're gonna have to bear with me. I just crawled out of bed. I haven't taken a shower yet, but thank you. Thank you for having me. And take everything I say with a grain of salt. In the end, you have to decide for yourself whatever it is you believe in. So I'm not here to convince you or persuade you. I'm just here to give you a few ideas and let them rattle around. So let's go from there.
Well, I guess first question will be, do you still believe flat Earth, all that good stuff?
Yes, flat Earth
Okay.
forever. Flat Earth
Okay.
from my cold dead hands. Got my model here. The other globe's down there if I have to use it for reference. I've never changed and never wavered, and never will. How's that?
Okay. Okay. Well, good. All right. So I guess we'll start off with personal questions because we think you're funny. We like to know more about you. All right.
Yeah,
Is that good?
sure.
And then we'll get into the flat Earth related
Yeah,
questions.
ask whatever you want.
All right. So first question, how has being in the documentary changed your life?
Well, as you can imagine, social media wise, it was very, very interesting. We didn't even know, I mean, we did not have faith in the documentary itself when it was made. Nobody even thought it was going to get into film festivals. But what really changed was once it got picked up by Netflix, again, my email load doubled in a week once it happened. We were already on Amazon and iTunes and YouTube Red and crap like that. But uh, yeah, I mean, a friend mentioned to me it's a comfortable amount of fame. You get noticed here and there, people clock you here and there. But it opened up opportunities, which I didn't have before. Some endorsements. You get to meet people you don't generally meet. I sent you a thing. It's like, hey, I hung out with Stephen Carpenter of the Deftones yesterday because he's one of ours. And it's like, yeah, cool, fantastic. You get weird calls like that. You get to hang people. It exposes you out there to people that now you put your beliefs out there, and so people, it's like, oh, hey, he believes in this as well. Maybe I can approach him on stuff like that. So that's kind of fun. It's got some cool perks. I'm not going to deny it.
Well, I guess when you're on the topic of meeting famous people,
Yeah,
what would be the most, I guess, famous person you've met because of flat Earth?
it really depends which genre. I mean, there's people I want to meet. Most famous comedian, probably Jim Brewer. In fact, I got to send him a thing because I got to hook him up with tickets for this concert. Um, Most famous guy though was Kelsey Grammer from the show Frasier, and they ended up rebooting it with Paramount, and then Cheers before that. He's Hall of Fame TV actor, and it's out of the blue. Ran into him when I was down in Los Angeles. He's like, "Yeah, come out to the house." It's like, wow, really cool. Again, you never know who you're gonna meet. The guy I want to meet, by the way, I don't know if there's any tennis fans in there, would be Novak Djokovic. But probably going to be the greatest tennis player ever. And he was clever. He held up a wonderful flat Earth map for us, but he didn't text it. He didn't put anything on video. And it's like great. So one day I'm hoping when he retires soon that I'll get to hang out with him.
Okay. Next question. Have you ever been bullied, scrutinized for your belief in flat Earth?
Not bullied. but scrutinized and hit in chat a lot. One of the rules we tell people that when they're making content for this sort of topic is do not read the comments. Honestly, just honestly, you really probably shouldn't read. I know everybody wants the feel goods and you want the thumbs up and you want the positive things, but come on, there's trolls out there. The running joke before YouTube got rid of the thumbs down. Uh-oh, you okay?
Oh, my bad. I forgot that. I forgot. I was trying to be nice, and I forgot like the camera's there.
That's okay. The uh there was a running joke in YouTube for a while. It's like, can your video make 100 thumbs up without one thumbs down? And most of the time you couldn't. There's always going to be somebody that comes in there. Doesn't even matter if they don't even look at the video. It's like, no, thumbs down. I hate you and everything about you. Go screw yourself. And so yeah, the most bullying we get criticized in live chat and real comments. But again, it's expected. Why wouldn't you be? It's a very polarizing topic, and you develop a little bit of a thick skin for it. If you read all the comments, you're not going to be able to last very long. I've run into people like that. It's like just don't read every single comment. Don't hang every word. You want to skim it every once in a while, check the temperature of the room. That's fine, but that's about it.
Is flat or Earth your only source of income, or can you support yourself doing flat Earth as a full-time career?
You can, but it's difficult. You need endorsements basically to pull that off. I mean, yes, I make a little money from podcasts and I make a little money from the books. I mean, you got to write something. But the endorsements are the big thing. If you do not, I mean, like during the pandemic, it was rough because we weren't doing conferences. Everything was pretty much locked down, so it wasn't tough to do. It can be done, but only for a few people. Most of the people that are in our community have regular jobs. I'm one of the lucky few that doesn't really have to.
Okay. Where's the Flat Earth Conference at this year, by the way?
It's going to be north. It's going to be, well, you probably know, well, maybe you know the area. It's going to be near Piedmont University outside of Atlanta, Georgia. And it's going to be in September.
Okay. Yeah, because I was trying to look it up to see where it was this year to tell them.
Oh, we
I
haven't
couldn't
we
find it.
we haven't announced it yet. In fact, we're just in the process now of in fact, that's funny you mentioned that because I think it's Friday tomorrow. I'm working with the conference promoter, and we have a new conference promoter who's on the outside actually of our community, but he likes the thought so much that he wants to do it. But once we pick the speakers, we'll announce it.
Okay. So next question, what inspires you to keep researching flat Earth even after, I guess you could
10
call them
years.
failed attempts to what inspires you to keep researching it even after, I guess you could call them failed attempts to prove that it is flat. It's, failed, but
Hope more than anything else. And from our standpoint, look, we've done all the ground experiments that we can do. For us, we've already proved it a bunch of times over. We wouldn't be this big and last this long if we didn't think we had proof. And most people get into it because of long distance photography, which we'll, maybe talk about later. But that's what keeps us going. The eternal search for the answers. Everybody loves a mystery, and we know there's something wrong with the globe, so that's why we keep pushing it.
so how is your mom doing? We loved her in the documentary. She thought, we always thought she was sweet, always supporting you and always, even though I don't think she necessarily agreed with all your, I guess you can say, viewpoints on the earth, but she always was supportive no matter what. So
M-
we
m-
always thought she was sweet.
Mom is hanging in there. She's older. She's older now. I'm older, and you get up there, but she's hanging tough.
Well,
And
good.
every day she's around, I'm blessed.
Okay, that's good. That's very good. So how is Patricia doing? I kind of checked out your YouTube channel. I think she was on something at recently, wasn't she? Or Patricia? Or am I think like Patricia Steer, the one who was on the documentary?
Well, Patricia, it depends how much time you want to get into. Did you watch the last episode of Strange World that I sent you?
No, I did not. I didn't have
Okay.
the time to. Your videos are like long.
Yeah, they're long. They're long. Patricia is good. We just did our 500th. She came back. She had the drama. There's drama everywhere, but she had a bad breakup. You caught some of that in the documentary. Bad breakup with the guy in England, and then she came back and she was out of the community for the while because he was one of ours, and so she's like, I can't do both of this at the same time. So she was out for 3 years, and then she came back in 2024 and was on with me in Strange World for a number of episodes. We just did our 500th week last week. That was our 500th episode. You really should check that out when you get a chance. But that's fine. I know we're going to do our classes, and she has now stepped back again. So, which is fine. She looks fabulous in episode 500. It was wonderful to have her, but she's in and out.
All right. Next question.
Yeah,
Well, Valentine's Day, was just around the corner not too long ago.
yeah.
Did you have Valentine's this year, Mark?
No, no. I've had some lovely flat Earth women Valentines over the years. This year I've been focused on, now that all the pandemic stuff has been lifted, just, surging forward with everything we've got again, doing meetups and stuff. But no, no Valentine's Day this year.
Oh, dang, dang.
That's all right. That's
Well,
all right, but
the
thank
next
you.
question was, would you want to get married? I mean, I figured since I Googled it, are you 55? Is Google true?
No, well, no, I'm 56 actually.
Oh, okay.
I don't know I don't know who wrote my wiki page. I don't know who wrote my IMD page and crap like that. Like they gave me, if you didn't notice, I think in my wiki page, I was born the day we landed on the moon. No, I wasn't. I was born April 24th. So whatever. I think that's very clever, but I didn't put that in there.
Okay.
Um, but no, I've never been married. Never had kids.
Yeah,
I've
because the
all
question to that was like, would you have children? But they asked that, my students asked that. I was like, I don't think he would considering his age, but you never know.
Well, no, I wouldn't. No. If you don't have kids by 50, you generally don't necessarily want to. Look, you guys can do whatever you want, but you won't probably want to have kids before you're 40. But
Yeah.
no, it's just one of those things. I've just never really had an interest in that, and I'm kind of eccentric. I'm a different kind of guy, so yeah, the singles bar scenes and the online dating, not so much for me.
Well, do you only date flat Earth women, or
Yes.
would you
In
go
fact,
into a round Earth woman?
nope, never have. As soon as I got into this, the paradigm changes is too much. I mean, you might as well. I mean, it'd be easier to date somebody from an opposing party, Republican versus Democrat, or dating somebody from another religion. It'd be easier to do that than to do flat Earth, because again, once you're into flat Earth, you're also into all sorts of other things in the truther community, which we're not going to talk about here. So
Yeah.
no, I've only dated flat Earth women since I got into it.
Okay. Yeah, because the follow-up question, which is you kind of mentioned it
Yeah,
just now, getting into other conspiracy theories and things like that.
yeah.
That follow-up question is, do you believe in other conspiracy theories on other, I guess, I don't know what other conspiracy theories there are.
Again, I know I got to be sensitive. I've done this a million times, so I'm not going to throw out the dark ones, which you're not even supposed to look up on the internet anymore. Yeah, of course. That's how I got into flat Earth. That was, that part of the documentary was absolutely true. Because I had so much free time on my hands, I looked into every conspiracy you could think of. I'll give you the safe ones. Do I think that the moon mission wasn't as advertised? Yes, I don't think it was as advertised. Do I think that Elvis is still alive and had a baby with Bigfoot? No, probably not. But because I'm into all this stuff, I'm into flat Earth. I will always give somebody the time of day. So if you come up to me and say, "Dude, I totally saw Elvis the other day hanging out at this bar," I'd be like, "You know what? I got a couple minutes. Talk to me. What do you got?" So I'm into all sorts of conspiracies. Yes.
It says, when I was reading a Wikipedia page, it said the last sentence said you believed in Bigfoot. Is that true?
I do, but it's interesting because I that's not one of my high profile things. I mean, sure, but I mean, Bigfoot's an interesting one. I like the Loch Ness Monster, which most people don't even know what that is, more than I like Bigfoot. Just because when it comes to cryptozoology and animals that we don't know about, that's what they always start out as. The giant panda was a myth, the giant anaconda, the giant squid. They were all myths. My favorite, by the way, would be the platypus. It's one of my favorites of all time, which is, it is absolutely makes no sense genetically all the way around. And back when they first discovered it, They put it in front of scientists, and scientists were looking at it, crawling around, walking around. They still didn't believe it. They're like, what, somebody sew this thing together? It's funny. So, but yeah, but they're all over the place. So don't, what happened?
Yeah. Okay. Where'd you go to college at, and what you, I guess, study while you were there?
A long time ago, kids, back when you could pay for college with couch cushion money, I went to Western Washington University well, I spent my first year at Wazoo at Washington State and basically drank my freshman year and just threw that whole year out because I was young and stupid. And then went to Western and just general stuff. I mean, come on, the internet wasn't even up yet when I went to college. So majored in business, general stuff, but then got thrown out my junior year for manufacturing explosives on campus. There you go. Not exactly Ted Kaczynski, but at the same time, it was a federal crime, and they didn't look
Well,
kindly
tell us
on me.
about that story. Tell us about that story.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I love chemistry, and I was pretty good at it, and I love fireworks, which is a dangerous mix. And I grew up on a beach in Washington, so you can do basically whatever you want up here. And then when I figured out you can make money on it, it's like, really? I can do this full time? Let's do that. And so I made a lot of stuff. I had a lab on campus, had like 32 people working for me. It was a blast. No play on words there. And it went really well for a while, but all good things. And when it came crashing down, luckily I was young enough to recover from it. But I don't encourage anyone to go down that road. But it was a lot of fun. Again, we're talking illegal fireworks. The stuff that goes boom, cherry bombs, and all the variations that you've heard of. When you go to I don't know if you have Native American reservations where you are. The stuff you ask for under the table, I was the guy that made them. So there you go.
What was your profession before Flat Earth? Before you got
I
into
was a professional video game player. That's how I started back in the old day. I mean, old school. I mean, actually, I had to work for a living, playing video games for a living. Going to the conferences and like E3 and Macworld Boston and Macworld San Fran and playing games and recruiting. I was ended up being a video game producer for a while, and then but it was in Colorado. It wasn't in California. So when that folded, I had to go to just time and attendance software. So then I trained people in proprietary software for the better part of 20 years. And then between startup companies, that's when I got into this. And then I never looked back.
Okay. Uh, I guess I'll skip the next one. Well, the question was, do you still play pinball? Because it mentioned in the documentary that you were the pinball
Yeah.
herald.
I was a huge pinball player. I was good. I'm good at playing games, and pinball is just hand-eye reflex stuff. And so, and the old school pinball machines, the pinball market died in 1999. It was replaced by all the modern stuff, but I still play it. There's a wonderful thing on Steam called Pinball Arcade, and I was lucky enough to get in before all the games got grandfathered out. And so I've got a monitor right over here that's pinball size, as a matter of fact, that's runs portrait that I play pinball games on. So yeah.
Tell us about the story about how you kind of cheated to be the pinball champion of the world. You didn't cheat,
Yeah.
you earned the
Yeah.
score, but you kind of cheated the system.
All's fair in love and war in video games. And I found a way. There was a pinball tournament that I was playing. It was worldwide. But it lasted an entire year. And I'm going to die if I play a tournament for an entire year. Nobody, I mean, even bowling takes 3 months off, for God's sakes. And I figured out a way because you turn in a score every month. And what I figured out was the algorithm was based on the time and date on the machine, on whatever computer you're at. So I made sure it wasn't auto updating through the internet, and I would just bump the scores up one month at a time. So I was getting the scores. Don't get me wrong, I was playing them, but what was happening was I didn't have to throw away really good games. So I was like, oh well, that's a really good score. I should save that for July. And so I would say, this score is now in July. This score is now in August. And so I basically won the tournament 6 months before it was over and didn't tell anybody. So I just made sure, because video game players are lazy. So I would wait, my scores would get better and better. And then towards the very end of the tournament, I just turned in a flurry of really, really high scores and nobody had a chance to catch up. And just like, hey, great, and I won. And I never told the publisher. The guy that owned the publishing company that hired me because I won the tournament and I got hired by this video game company. He was so straight-laced. He was one of the few people I could not tell. And because I knew it's like if I told him, he'd like have fired me immediately. And it's like, nope. So never did. And he never knew. He passed away a few years ago. I was like, yeah, well, there you go.
Okay. All right. Next one.
Yeah.
What's your favorite experiment that you've done trying to test flat Earth?
My favorite experiment would have been the National Geographic Salton Sea experiment. That's my favorite one that I did personally because I was there with Nat Geo, and we shot across a salt lake outside of Los Angeles, and we showed them it's like, look, because if the curvature, you wouldn't be able to see the shore on the other side because there'd be a curvature, and they set up these balloons on the other side, and it's like, well, we won't be able to see them until we raise the balloons, and we brought out our high-end cameras and cranked it up, and it's like, no, there they are, you guys haven't even raised them up yet, and we can see them on the beach. And they did not like that so much. It took them, you gotta remember, it took them a lot of money to set this thing up. And they would not show it when they aired it. We recorded everything, but when they aired it, they would not show that part of the experiment. We were there so early. We were there at like 4 in the morning, until like one in the afternoon. It was brutal. So that was my favorite one that I was in. My favorite of all time, which is a short one I put on my channel, would be the Santa Barbara oil rigs experiment. That wasn't done by me, but it was done by a friend of mine. And he was showing the oil rigs at 6 miles and 10 miles out, embedded in the water, not boats. And what the interesting part about it was the horizon was far beyond the oil rigs. It's like, okay, how can the horizon be behind it and yet in front of it at the same time? It can't. And that's my favorite one anyway.
Okay. So next question, why do you believe in flat Earth, even though many experiments that you've done have proved it to be not true?
Well, I say I disagree. Our experiments say they have proved it in our eyes. So that's why I believe in it. We wouldn't be able to get this far if the experiments had failed. In fact, if they had failed, we wouldn't even be talking this, now. The documentary would have never been made. We had to have gotten somewhere. The question is, why hasn't the globe come back and stomped us into the ground? If it was so easy, why 10 years later does it keep going and going and going? Why do we have conferences?
What would it take for you to believe in, or not, I guess not believe in flat Earth or believe that the Earth would be a globe? What would it
It's a good question, and two things. One is cheap, one is expensive. Well, one is more expensive. We'll do the more expensive one first, which is put a GoPro rocket on or a GoPro camera on any rocket, point it down, and have that rocket leave orbit, and have it pointing back at the Earth, and the Earth should form eventually into a globe as it leaves orbit. It's never happened in the history of space travel, ever, which statistically is not impossible, but very, very unlikely considering all the space organizations. And especially with the SpaceX Tesla Roadster in space, when that thing was supposedly spun off and went to Mars, and they turned off the cameras even before it supposedly broke orbit. It's like, why? You've got perfect transmission, three different cameras. Why wouldn't you take advantage of this? But whatever. That's the expensive one. The cheap one, which I put out there, the challenge for years, which was the spacesuit test, which is any soft thing, pressurized thing in a vacuum chamber will expand until it becomes rigid and explodes. The only thing that does not, I mean, basketball, football, can of soda, whatever you want, that's what happens in a vacuum chamber. The only thing that doesn't is a spacesuit. In fact, the spacesuit doesn't go rigid. It's perfectly flexible. You can move your arms, your fingers, everything's fine. So if that's the case, and I say the spacesuit does not work the way you advertise it. So put me in a vacuum chamber in a spacesuit, just loan it to me and crank that thing up. Tell me what happens.
Okay.
No one would touch it with a 10-foot pole. Not just for liability reasons. No one would touch it. No one even suggested it. The closest they got, it's like, oh, okay, well, maybe we can pay for you to go up to the ISS. It's like, okay, I'll believe that when I see it. No one ever did that either.
I guess this is the last personal question. What
Yeah.
in general makes you doubt or have, or I guess have a untrustfulness in science? Like what makes you second guess, say, these people who are educated. I mean, like in terms of schooling,
Oh, of
educated
course,
in
of
terms of
course.
schooling, and they research and they find that this to be true, or many people find this to be true. What makes you
Right.
doubt that?
Because, and I'm not picking on you, of course. I know you're one of the representatives of that side.
No,
Uh,
no, 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 no. Flat
well,
Earth.
you know what I mean.
Uh,
Science is power corrupts. It's an old saying, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Science is no different. Science, I know, supposedly a lot more integrity, but come on, there are conspiracies in business and politics and sports and journalism and athletics all day long. To say that science doesn't go down the slippery slope of once they decide that something is true, why, and the public's not going to question it, why don't we just go for broke and turn it into scientism, which is we'll just throw out theories out there, and I'll give you two really quick. One would be the core of the Earth. That's one of my favorites, which is everybody's seen the cross section of the Earth. Those perfect 1,000-mile thick bands, or red and orange and yellow and white, going all the way to the center. Supposedly 4,000 miles. If you dug 4,000 miles straight down, you'd get to the center of the Earth. It's like, okay, well, how do you know that? How do you know what happens there? It's like, what's the deepest hole ever drilled? Is it 2,000 miles? Is it 1,000? Is it 100? Is it even 10? No, deepest hole ever drilled is not even 8 miles. So how do you know what's down there? Why isn't the globe just a big question mark in the inside? It's like because science doesn't do question marks. They don't. They just put it out there. Neil Tyson, one of the high priests of science, had said that science is right whether or not you believe in it. And it's like, well, that's a pretty bold statement and pretty arrogant. And I'll give you one more, which is George Orwell, the guy that wrote 1984. He had this wonderful quote. And he wasn't a flat earther, but it was an interesting that this is what he brought up. He goes, if you asked everybody on the street right now how they know the world is a globe, they would say, well, we just know. It's a known thing. That's just what it is. It's a globe. It's like, really? How do you know? And what he was saying was, how does everybody know that it's a globe? Remember, it was 1946 when he wrote this. The NASA wasn't even founded until 1958. So how did everybody in the world in 1946 know it was a globe? There were no space programs. There was no spaceships. It's like they were told. And there's a big difference between being told something and knowing for yourself. And I know you can't, it's not realistic to say, well, nobody in this classroom has spaceships or anything like that, but you don't. And it's like, who does? Oh, well, the government. It's like, you mean the military? Yeah, yeah, I know. And I know people will say, well, NASA is in the military. They absolutely are. You can look it up. They're DoD. They've always have been. They were built. I mean, they're uniquely military in that they were born and bred out of rocket technology. They were born out of the space race, the Soviet Union versus the United States missile program. So sorry, I could go on for a while about why science I've got some problems with, but the short version is they tend to lean towards we have the lab coats, you don't, we're smarter than you, so shut up. And most people go for it. I mean, we've done this. We've gone on street corners. You try handing out leaflets on a street corner. Tough to do, right? You put on a lab coat and hold a clipboard, people will come up to you because like, oh, hey, smart person in a lab coat, what are we talking about? It's like, well, there's nothing on this clipboard, but I'm going to pretend that I know what I'm doing. So yeah, sorry, I've got a little bone to pick with science.
Okay, okay. Well, I guess before we move on to flat Earth questions, I was going to mention that I'm not sure if you said last year if it's the power editing or maybe it's just you, but they did you pretty dirty at some points in the documentary. I thought it was funny.
The green
Like
button.
they did you dirty.
Yeah,
Like,
well, I mean, look, it was a good. There's some the one of the first rules of entertainment, if not the biggest rule, is give the people what they want. And when it comes to media, if it's a good gag and it responds well with the audience, give it to them. And they showed it to me before we even got to the film festival. They said, and they asked me, they said, hey, the green button, I knew what happened. I was there. Look, I was there when it's like, it just happened they weren't even doing it deliberately when they shot it. That was the thing. What you don't know is when you leave a scene, they leave the camera on to give you room for editing. And they just happened to zoom in on the green button when they were doing it. It was not part of the script. And so someone said, "Hey, if we take the part out of Mark hitting the green button, we can get a pretty good gag there." And look, and I sat in the studio audiences. It got laughs, or at least it got people thinking, "Oh, hey, Mark missed something really, really obvious." So as much as it was a dig on me, that got the audience engaged, and that's what was fine. No different than when Nathan Thompson was driving in the car, and like showing books, like
That guy was
obviously
kind of
not
that guy
paying
was
attention to
low
the.
key kind of a crackhead, but he seems a little crazy. But
He's very eccentric, but most of it's natural energy. I mean, I've hung out with the guy. His mind is just moving a million miles an hour,
yeah, we
and
can tell. We can tell.
yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is they with you and Patricia, they kind of made you look kind of like a simp. Do you know what that
They
is?
they did. Well, I mean, which is fine. I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, Patricia is at least an octave out of my station, no question. She's
Come on, Mark,
ridiculous.
you're a good looking guy. Don't
No,
put
no, 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 no,
out
no,
like
no.
that.
No, I've got my cute days. My really cute days are in the rearview mirror. However, Patricia is one of those genetic lottery winners that you hate. I mean, I've watched a collage. I built a collage of her from like age 13 through age 50. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely freaking ridiculous. I hate people
But
like that.
yeah, the moment we liked was when you got friend zoned,
Yep.
or at least in the
Yep.
documentary, where like we
And
are a couple of friends,
yep,
and
and it was a good
laugh
move.
every
I mean,
time.
we had dated earlier, and they tried to make it way more recent. They tried to recreate it in the documentary. By the time we shot that thing, we hadn't been together for at least 6, 8 months. But again, people love the drama. They love the intrigue. I mean, no, it was like the second most popular question when we did film festivals, which was, I mean, I remember I was doing a radio station in New Zealand, and it was like, Mark Sargent, what about Patricia? And it's like, really? That's what we're going to talk about? I've got a globe, I got a flat Earth map here, or that's what we're going to talk about Patricia. But I get it. Again, people love it. So no, no, Patricia's cool. I had a lot of fun with her, but yeah, I'm sorry, I would have left that part in there too. It was a good thing. I mean, again, they had 7 months of footage and they had to edit down to 100 minutes. Would I have left it in? Yep. In fact, I wouldn't have changed anything in the documentary, with the exception of the ending. But we'll get to that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't pay for Zoom, so I'm on a 45-minute time limit. So we only probably got about maybe 8-ish minutes. So let's
Okay. Okay.
let's try to bang out some of these flat Earth questions real
Okay. I'll
quick.
be brief. I'll be brief.
Okay. So don't give me the long-winded response.
Okay.
Give me the short, quick response.
Okay.
Good. All right. So first question, we just mentioned the experiments. What do you say about the experiments that in the documentary prove the Earth to be round? Like that happened at the end. It's like with the light test and things like that.
Right, right, right. Okay, so the documentary, the thing at the end with the laser experiment, if you understand what it is, they were shooting a laser from a distance, and it should have, if everything was level, it should have hit the target before he raised it up. What Jaron did not know, and I put this completely on Jaron, I defended him for a long time, but it's true. He did not have line of sight. He had never gone to that site before. Google Earth said it was tabletop flat, and he never went there during the day. It's like, oh, we'll just do it live, and he bring the camera crew in, and the laser melted the first time. The second time he brought him in, it still didn't turn out well. So 2 months later, after the documentary was released, we had him. It's like, dude, will you go out to the freaking site? He went out during the middle of the day. He absolutely did not have line of sight. It wasn't tabletop flat. I'd like to blame it on Google, but I'm not. I'm going to blame it on Jaron. It's like he should have known better. That's why. So
Okay. Do you think satellites are real? Next question.
I do. But at the same time, I don't think they're up there. Look up the satellite balloon program. It's been in place since 1958. NASA is the largest consumer of helium in the world. They launch helium balloons all day long with payloads up to 4 tons, which is roughly 8,000 pounds. There's some wonderful videos on my channel about the accidents that happen there. They're not like weather balloons. Weather balloons go up, they explode, and then they come down. If you do it right, if you control it, you can keep a satellite on a balloon for a long, long time. And why wouldn't you do that? That is pennies on the dollar. Meaning you can charge people for rockets. I'm not saying everybody does it illegally, but you can put it up on a balloon for almost nothing and then what do you do with it? Most of our bandwidth, what we're talking through here is through undersea cables. 90 something percent of the bandwidth is through undersea cables. Almost nothing is done through satellites. In fact, I'm pretty sure most of the satellites are done for military.
Okay. Opinion on NASA.
Opinion on NASA, everything in NASA is fake. Absolutely 100%. Just to give you a sense that you're in a solar system that doesn't exist. No, the Apollo moon program, there's a reason why no one has even attempted to go back to the moon since 1972, and only the Americans said they ever went. And then they closed it down in 1972. And again, the big point here is there's like 5 or 6 nations right now with launch capability, but no one has even talked about going back to the moon. Even Elon Musk, we may get to or may not, said just recently, I mean, just like a couple months ago, it's like, oh, the moon's a distraction. We're going to focus on Mars. It's like Mars is impossible. Even if you could get there, it's impossible because it's a one-way trip. No one's going to turn Mars into a giant headstone. There you go.
Uh, I just went to the next page, guys. Are other planets objects in the sky, or I guess say in the solar system, flat?
No, you're living in a planetarium. You're living in basically a studio, a structure, and everything on the ceiling is just lights. That's all it is. When you go to a planetarium and you look up at the sky, do you see Jupiter? Yes. Do you see Jupiter with moons? Yes. You take binoculars, you can zoom in on it in a planetarium. But why can't you land at it? Well, because you're just in a building. When you walk outside of it, why aren't you into a much larger building?
Okay.
That's all we're in.
Do you believe in the dome or the non-dome, I guess?
Dome, only because of the pressure situation, which is even if you believe in space, but the space part is there has to be a dome. That's why they call it air pressure. Pressure cannot exist to non-pressure without, or next to a vacuum without some sort of barrier. It doesn't work like that. It absolutely equalizes instantly. By the way, it's not like the movies. All the space movies could be cut short because everybody dies all the time. Nobody survives at that. There's a hole in the fuselage. If there was a vacuum out there, it's over.
Okay. Let's see. I mean, I'm gonna skip around. Let me see. How do you explain gravity? Just
How do you
brief
explain gravity?
gravity. Brief explanation of gravity and flat Earth.
Okay, science will tell you that gravity is a theory that is a magical molecular force that pulls things down to the center of a ball. We say that gravity is just a magical molecular force that pulls things down to a flat surface. There's really not much difference. Do density and buoyancy factor into it? Sure, why not? Again, we're not breathing in nothing. It's mostly nitrogen and a little bit of oxygen. But as Neil Tyson loves to say, we can't tell you what gravity is. We can only tell you what it does. We can tell you its symptoms of it because we can't create it artificially. Now, do I think the military has the chance of creating it artificially? Sure, but they're not going to tell the public. It's too valuable.
Okay. Uh, I guess what's under flat Earth, or how thick is
How
the
thick is the
flat
flat
Earth?
Earth?
How long does it go? All that good
Don't
stuff.
know. Don't know because the globe can't tell us what's down below 8 miles, which is the deepest hole ever drilled is 8 miles. And we say it's on a flat Earth, then, well, we can only speculate on what's down at 8 miles. How thick is the flat Earth? Have no freaking idea. Do I think there's some caverns down there that could hold ancient subterranean civilizations? Sure. Hollow Earth theory, love it. Because again, most of our civilization, right? Our population lives mostly between sea level and 1 mile up, because altitude sickness kicks in at about 7,000 feet. So who's to say we're not in a giant cavern that's only 50 miles high? A giant planetarium. Why not? Commercial airplanes cap out at 10 miles, spy planes roughly 20 miles, if you believe it, maybe satellites a little bit higher. You could squeeze our civilization into one of those very, very easily.
All right, good. Well, I guess I will go ahead and let you go because I'm not sure how much time is left on this Zoom call. Because I
Oh,
got the notification probably like 8 minutes ago that I had 10 minutes left.
okay. Well, we
So
were close. Thank you. I appreciate it. How long until I jump into the next one?
probably about 15 minutes, probably.
Okay, cool. Well,
Like
thank.
it's the next period, and this period ends in like what, like six. This period ends in 6 minutes. So
Okay,
like I'll try to, yeah, probably like 15 minutes from now,
cool.
probably.
Again, thank you guys. I appreciate the questions, and again, well, yes.
He didn't have a
Oh,
question.
oh, you were just waving.
Just waving.
Yeah, yeah. It was a pleasure. Always like talking to younger people because I'm older. And again, do your own research. Figure it out for yourself. All that stuff I rattled off to you. Yeah, chew on it. And if you're curious, type in Flat Earth Mark into any search engine. Look around. Have some fun.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark. We appreciate you taking your time.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
guys. Say bye. 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 All right. All right. So thank you, Mark, for taking the time out of your day to talk with us, to answer our questions, and to just, hang out. We really appreciate it.
Thank
I
you.
know you are busy and with your day, but we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us and
Happy to do it.
answer all of our questions we have about flat Earth and all the other things as well. So,
Cool. Cool. Cool.
anything you have to say before we get started with questions and all that good stuff?
No, because last time I think I was probably going too long. So let's just
It's
get
fine.
right to it. Thank you guys for having me. It's 6:44 in the morning here. I'm gonna do the best I can.
All right, all right. Well, thank you for, like I said, being here and answering our questions. So we'll go and get started. We'll do the personal ones first.
Yep.
This class got a lot of good questions, so we'll go ahead and get right into them. All right.
Okay.
So, when did you start believing in flat Earth? When, like, how old were you? What year? All that stuff.
I was way older than most. I was 46 when I first got into it. Summer of 2014 was when I first looked into it. Thought it was a terrible, awful idea. It's like, it's stupid. Why even bother? But I looked at just about everything else. You watch the movie, that part's absolutely true. And got into it. Took me 9 months to finally figure out what I was going to do. And it's like, you know what? I'll just make a series of videos, put it out on the internet, put all my contact information, and say, hey, internet, tell me what I did wrong. And instead of getting completely shut down, I had all sorts of people reaching out to me. It's like, dude, it's not nuts. Here's why. There you go.
So, is your life different now, or how has it changed since you started doing flat Earth?
Oh, completely different. It might as well have been an amusement park ride pulled up in my living room, and I just all I had to do was get in. I mean, since I got into it back in, the first videos I made in 2015, I may have done conferences in, I don't know, 7 or 8 countries, a Netflix documentary, 3 books, I don't know how many interviews, maybe 500, endorsements, all sorts of social media stuff. Got to meet people, got to do things I never, ever, ever would have thought I would have been doing. Every year is a weird new adventure, and I just feel unbelievably lucky to be part of it.
Oh, cool, cool. How's your mom doing? We thought she was the sweetest in the documentary.
Mom
Always
is
being supportive and all that great stuff.
Mom is sweet. She's 82 now, and she's getting up there, but she's hanging tough, and anything she needs, I help her out with, and it's fun.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that. But how do you deal with the criticism of being a flat earther? How do you
I
deal with
mark their names down on a list, and one day I hope to kill them all. No. No,
that?
it's actually not that bad. I don't mind. Look, I was there back in the beginning when the internet trolls first came out, way back before you guys were born. The internet trolls were there. It's one of the banes of the internet, which is you can comment without repercussion. Things you can never say to somebody in school, you can say on the internet. Or the quote I like, if you don't have anything good to say, well, you're probably on the internet. So. I just you develop a thick skin, but for the most part, you don't read them. There's a trade-off. You want to read the happy comments, you want to read the thumbs up, hey, thanks for what you're doing, and you really inspired me to do whatever. But at the same time, you don't want to read the stuff. It's like you suck, and here's reasons why. So just be a thick skin, get a thick skin and try to ignore it. I know it's tough for you guys, but I'm Gen X, so I was in my 40s before the internet was really that far along.
What keeps you motivated or about believing in flat Earth, even when, like, for example, multiple experiments that have been done by, I guess, other people, and I guess people in your community have kind of proved it to be not flat. What keeps you motivated?
Ted, the biased science educator. For us, we've done so many experiments that prove it for us. A lot of them. Long distance photography, the gravity versus the vacuum of space experiments, the solar eclipse, and so on and so on and so on. We've got so much under our belt. Let's put it this way: are there holes in the flat Earth model? Sure, but there's a lot more holes in the globe. So as long as that's true, we're never going to stop.
Okay. Are there any flat earthers that like you disagree with or like that I guess you're enemies with or you have beef with? Anybody in
Sure.
your own community?
Sure, there's dissension in the ranks. I mean, no group is without their villains and their heroes. I mean, several of the biggest flat earthers couldn't make the documentary because they don't get along with people that were in, or they have views on certain things which aren't politically correct, for lack of a better term. And so I don't hate any flat earthers. I don't. Look, everybody's got a role to play, and everybody, as long as you're pushing the entire movement forward, that's fine. Are there guys I don't talk to ever? Yes, of course. But that's just I mean, most of it is stagecraft, which is lots. There are people out there that do not like sharing the stage. We hear it with actors all the time, right? No one wants to be upstage. No one wants to get off the stage, and so there's people that don't want to share the spotlight.
Okay.
It usually comes down to ego.
Okay. So what is your main source of income nowadays? Is it mainly flat earth? Do you have a part-time job doing other things?
No, no, no. Once I got into flat Earth, I was one of the few people that didn't really have to worry about it. I mean, I had money from other things previous to that, and when I got into flat Earth, I was given some opportunities that other people didn't have. I mean, granted, I'm not living a luxurious lifestyle, but I didn't really want to. It's one of those things where, yeah, do I make a little money off the podcast? Sure. Do I make money off the books? Sure. Did I make some money with endorsements? Yeah. I mean, it was close. I was close to really having some fun. In fact, I was on my way to a McDonald's commercial gig in England. They were going to do because they do Pancake Day over there, and it's like, oh, dude, we're going to do a whole flat Earth thing because pancakes flat and round, and that's when the borders closed. During the pandemic, it's like, oh, really? So that's fine.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I guess the next question was, what did you go to college for? And then the follow-up is, why did you get kicked out of college? So,
Sure. Went to college again, the late 80s into the early 90s. College was not what you think it is now. It was cheap. You didn't really study much. You went to meet people and do things. I studied general business. There was no internet. You had a computer, you had a word processing lab. Nobody even had, you had to print things on campus. You didn't even have a computer. I was one of the few people in that I knew that had a computer in my house. And so my first year I drank through was Washington State University, and then I went 3 years at Western Washington University, thrown out the end of my junior year for manufacturing explosives on campus. Sounds worse than it is. It's not like I was doing mail bombs. I wasn't talking with Ted Kaczynski on a regular basis. However, I was making illegal fireworks for the Indian reservations or Native American reservations. And I mean, it was one of those loves, my passions I did for quite a while. And it didn't go as well as planned. Again, how good could I be at like 20 years old? Do you have a master plan at 20? No. So the government stepped in and the ATF nailed me and wasn't allowed to do that anymore. But the good news is I don't ever have to do jury duty for the rest of my life. So there's that.
next one,
Yeah.
pinball. I saw I guess, on the documentary that you are in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
The 90s, the pinball champion of the world. So tell us
Yeah.
that story, how that became to
Yeah,
be.
I was I mean computer pin the only way you can do a world tournament if it's computer pinball, you can look it up. There's a wonderful developer out of Tokyo called Little Wing, and their publisher was in Boulder, Colorado. They ran a worldwide tournament. I entered it. The tournament ran for an entire year. I didn't want to play for an entire year because that's really too long to play a video game of any kind, competitively. It's not just not fun anymore. So I figured out a way to take my scores, every good score I had, and bump them up to the next month using the time and date in the algorithm. And so I got the scores, but what I did was I saved the scores, and I would make sure I turned in the scores later. And nobody else could do that but me. So I won the tournament in July. before, and nobody knew it. And then in December, the tournament was over, got the trophy, got hired by the company, and then I was off to the races, moved to Boulder, Colorado, and stayed there for 20 years.
So with Valentine's, that just around the corner not too long ago, was
Yep.
there a Mrs. Sargent?
I have never, okay, I have never married, never had kids, and since I got into flat Earth 10 years ago, I've only dated flat Earth women. Very interesting women, mind you, all very eccentric, as you can imagine. I've had a lot of fun, but marriage was just not on the table for whatever reason. I treat my love life like a square dance. For whatever reason, if you've ever known anyone that's square dance, you turn around, do-si-do, and then you spin back, your partner's gone. They went off and did other things. But no regrets. Like everything for a reason. I believe the universe takes me where it wants to, and like this class, for example.
Okay. So have relationships been affected by your belief in flat Earth? Like, obviously, you just said you only date flat Earth women, but
Right.
has there been a time where you've, I guess, ever been with a woman that believed in round Earth or any
Oh,
relationship with?
sure, 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 sure. I mean, I was dating.
Well, I mean, it doesn't have to
I was
just
before I
dating.
turned, yeah, before I was turned like a vampire into flat Earth. I dated normal people. But the relationships changed more like with family and friends. I had cousins that would be like, I'm not talking to you anymore. Or you don't get invited to certain things because they're afraid you're going to be that conspiracy guy in the room. So, but I've learned how to read a room. You just don't bring it up. You wait for your moments, but you don't sit down with somebody and say, "Hey, let's talk about some conspiracies. It's really dark and sinister." No, no, nothing like that. But yeah, there are. I am that guy that's into it. So yes, things have
So
changed.
I was going to ask that one part in the documentary where I think you're in Pasadena, California,
Yeah.
and they were interviewing those three people, it's like that one woman and two guys, and they were like, "Yeah, I just finalized the divorce," and things like that. Were those people real? Like, were
Oh
they?
yeah, there were no actors in that movie. And that's a great point, by the way. We brought that movie to an editor, um, completely unsolicited in Hollywood, and we told him nothing about it. And he watched it and he's like, wow. He goes, that was the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He's going, where did you get the cast? Where did all these actors come from? Right? It's like, no, man, those were absolutely real. And it just blew his mind that everybody was real. So yeah, there was not a single actor in that. Well, I mean, it's a documentary. You can't. And plus you don't get paid for it as well. You can't.
Yeah, yeah. But I was just wondering because it was just, I don't know, we just thought it was like kind of funny. It's just like, yeah, just finalized the divorce.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it's sad, but we also had a good laugh about it too.
Yeah.
Dad's off his rocker,
Yeah,
stuff
well,
like
I
that.
mean, some of that's true. Absolutely. And most of the conversations aren't as embellished. They're not as, homegrown. But again, if it plays well, you had 7 months worth of footage. I wouldn't have changed anything as far as the editing goes, with the exception of the end. Most of it was pretty good. It's like, yeah, it got the interest. At no point, I mean, did people in the audience think it wasn't real, except for like the first 20 minutes was like, what, this isn't a real thing, like you were saying. Go ahead.
But yeah, you're saying editing and stuff. They did make you look kind of foolish in a lot of those points. And some of the points in the documentary, the editing they pulled out made you look like the village idiot, I guess you can say.
The
But it was
power, the power
like
of editing
uh,
is amazing. You can check
like the
that.
NASA part with the spaceship and the green button,
The
or
green button.
or
Yep.
just
And
making it look like that.
that
Uh,
was,
you
that
were
was,
madly in love with Patricia, who got
yep.
friend zoned.
Well, and again, I understand the power of editing, which is, I mean, the green button was just accidental. That wasn't even in the script. There's something called find it in the editing, and they found it because they just happened to be like, okay, I'd walked out of frame. They zoom in because you leave it on for 20, 30 seconds to give you more space to splice things. And then somebody came up with the idea. It's like, what if we take out the part where Mark hit the button? Mark wasn't just hitting the button. I was beating on that button. And then I finally, it's like, is it a touch screen? What the hell? Thing can't be completely broken. And they left it in. And they asked me, it's like, is it okay what we did here? And I go, it's fine. It's a good gag. I like it. As far as Patricia goes, that also worked. People like drama. People's like, will she, won't she? Are they, aren't they? We hadn't before the thing even started filming, we weren't a thing for at least 6, 7 months, at least. And they made it seem so recent. We had to chuckle about it later. It's like they made it seem like it was yesterday. I go, I know. But it's fine. I get it. You want to keep the audience engaged, and so yeah. Oh, sorry. There's a quote, P.T. Barnum, or no, it was Mark Twain. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
So let's see. What would it take for you to change your belief in flat Earth? What would it take?
Um, it would take one of two things. Either you take a GoPro rocket, I'm sorry, GoPro on a rocket and point it down towards the Earth, let the rocket leave orbit, and have the camera pointing back, and eventually the Earth will form into a globe. It's never happened in the history of any space archive footage ever. Doesn't matter what country, doesn't matter what program. It's never ever happened. It's always like, okay, rocket's going to go up, and we cut to globe. Even with the Tesla Roadster in space, that was brilliant, by the way. It's like we show the boosters landing, and here's the Roadster orbiting above the Earth. It's like, really? That's very clever. Um, the other thing you could do, that part's very expensive. The other thing you do is again put a spacesuit, put me in a spacesuit, loan it to me, put me in a vacuum chamber, pull the switch. Spacesuit cannot work the way it can in a vacuum. It will expand to fill the void. Your arms will go completely rigid. It'll be this, you'll turn in basically into a parade float, tip over, it'll burst, and you won't survive. So, and I put that challenge out there for God, 3, 4 years, and nobody would touch it. And you think you want to end flat Earth? That's the way to do it. However, if I died in that chamber, you'd have some explaining to do. So that we wanted the two things.
Well, next question. If you were trying to convince someone that the Earth is flat, what would be like your main argument, main piece? What would be the go-to piece of evidence you would, if you only could give them one reason?
Right. Oh, just one reason?
Yeah, well, one reason or one kind of piece of evidence, I guess.
Okay. Yeah, I know we're limited for time. I won't give you my top five. The number one reason would be that most people get into it, and I mean like 70 to 80% of the people in the community would be the long distance photography above and beyond, which is, and I didn't even come up with it. That's not even part of the clues that I wrote, which is you go down to a body of water generally because that's flat. I mean, if you have some salt flats nearby, you could do it there too, but water's easy. And you shoot off into the distance and you see too far. It's way beyond the curvature limit, which means you see things that should be on the other side of the hill, but they're there. And you can bring things back into frame that you can't see with your naked eye. And that's what HD technology has really changed. We wouldn't even be having this conversation if it wasn't for HD technology, which is cameras that could not see that far into the distance now with really great optical zoom can pull boats back into frame at distances that are far, far beyond the curvature. And that's what gets most people into it. And again, there's a wonderful video on my channel called Why This Video is So Important, which is the Santa Barbara oil rigs, one at 6 miles, one at 10 miles, and the horizon is far beyond the oil rigs, and there is no horizon line anywhere, ever.
Okay. Would you consider yourself a celebrity?
Minor celebrity? Sure. I mean, celebrities in what venue, right? It's not sports, it's not one of the five forms of art, but yeah, a little bit. I mean, I got some fame out of it to be sure. When they do a Netflix documentary, you're not gonna go unnoticed. Um, and I've gotten a chance to do things that otherwise I wouldn't have, when you put yourself out there. That's the big thing. The celebrity part of celebrity is you're putting yourself out there and you're saying, this is what I do, and then you see what resonates. So yeah, a little bit
What
comfortable.
was your dream job before you did Flat Earth?
Oh, my dream job was playing video games for a living. The pinball thing translated into me being hired by a video game company, which 90% of the video game companies in America are down in Southern California. But this one happened to be one that was in California that moved to Colorado. And I got to live in Boulder, Colorado, and play video games for 20 years. Well, the first part was playing video games, and when they finally tanked for a whole, for an arbitration reason with a developer, I stayed there and taught proprietary software. But the video game thing was a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Going to conferences, being a ringer, that was great.
What are your hobbies outside of flat Earth, other than like video games, like you just said?
Oh, philanthropy, world domination, stuff like that. No, no. Um, yeah, the normal stuff. I grew up in an island. I like windsurfing. I like basketball. I like hiking. Loved hiking in Colorado, one of the best places to hiking in the world. I love movies. I love everything media. I've run out of stuff. I'm not even sure I'm going to buy a new TV because I don't know if there's anything left for me to watch. Unfortunately, I'm really scraping when it comes to like streaming services now. And video games, of course. I still love playing games.
Okay. Well, I guess what's your favorite game or what game you playing right now?
Ugh. Favorite game of all time would be probably Fallout 3. That was a lot of fun. I played World of Warcraft for 16 years. That was fun doing it. Games I'm playing now, Diablo Resurrected. I'm not a big fan of Fortnite or GTA or because GTA promotes crime. I think that's kind of silly. Um, and Minecraft bugs the hell out of me because it's an editor. I was there when it was created. And it's like, come on, this isn't a game. It's an editor. But whatever.
Does flat Earth ever get tiring? Like, do you ever get tired of doing just general flat Earth things you do every day?
No, because it's always a little different. There's always somebody coming out with something. The community's pretty tight and there's a lot of inner circles within circles and gossip within gossip. And so where everybody's looking at it's kind of like the entertainment community in some ways where everyone's like, what's this person doing? What's this person doing? Oops, sorry. Solicitor call. Um, the so it doesn't get boring because there's always some new angle. As a matter of fact, I know once we're done with this show, once we're done with this, check out the Strange World 500, the one we did this last week, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay. Last personal question, then we'll get into the flat Earth kind of things.
Yeah.
Do you believe in any other conspiracies, right, other than like obviously flat Earth?
Yes. Yes, all day long. The reason I got into flat Earth was because I had gone down just about every rabbit hole you could. Look, if you don't get married or have kids, you're gonna have a lot of free time on your hands, huge amounts of free time. And I was there when the internet was pretty young, and I'd gone down rabbit holes to where it's like, all right, is there anything I haven't looked at? So yes, I had looked at just about every conspiracy that there's out there, most of which I've got an opinion on every one of them. I like some I don't like. The moon landing, obviously, have a problem with the moon landing. But as far as Elvis still walking around, no, probably not. Or people being other people, not necessarily your clones, maybe. But yes, I've looked at every if you can think of a conspiracy, I've got an opinion on it.
Okay. Is there anything personal or anything you would like to add before we get to the flat Earth questions?
No, no regrets. I believe in everything for a reason. I don't think it's an accident that I ran into this. I wasn't looking for flat Earth. Flat Earth found me. That part is absolutely true. And all you have to do when opportunities come, say yes to them and see where it takes you. There's a reason why the opportunity was there.
All right, so we'll get into the flat Earth questions now.
Yeah.
So first question, what is the when we're talking about, I guess, the flat Earth model,
Mhm.
what is the ice wall? Like, what is that?
The ice wall would be, and I will show the model on the screen. Hopefully you can see some of it. The ice wall would be Antarctica, which would be everything else on the flat Earth map looks relatively similar, except for Antarctica. Antarctica wouldn't be the snowy Australia type thing at the bottom of the world. It would be stretched out around the outside. We're basically living in a giant lake or pond and the Antarctica would be the coastline of it but the continent would be much much bigger, and that goes along with everything we've looked into over the years.
I just thought of this. This class that I teach is an environmental class. Like we're learning about the environment stuff.
Yeah,
Talk about global warming
yeah.
and how ice is melting. What happens if the ice wall would melt? What would happen to flat Earth?
Oh. Well, I mean, if the ice wall melts, I mean, I don't know how much water, there's theories on how much water's locked in there. The bigger question there would be how does global warming or climate change, let's call it global warming, because that's really what it is. I mean, I know they changed the term, work on a flat Earth. And that is, it works way, way better on a flat Earth because it's enclosed. So if you're living in some sort of dome-like structure, no different than really a car. You bring a propane lantern into a car, it will change the dynamics of the heat and the hot and cold spots in that car. You bring two propane lanterns, so on and so on. Think about it realistically here. We have at any given point, I'm just going to roughly estimate maybe 800, 900 million internal combustion engines running on this world at any given point, right? They're basically furnaces. If you didn't know that, you could take your car engine and heat your house with it really easily, extremely easily. So if you have 900 million of those things, you think it's not going to affect some sort of domed structure or, if it's enclosed, basically it's a greenhouse. I love, by the way, the term greenhouse gases. Doesn't that make sense if it's an actual greenhouse, if there's an actual structure?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that if the ice melts, well, I also think because it's part of an automated system, it's going to compensate. We haven't seen the island sink yet. I know we've been talking about global warming for some time now. But do I think it's going to be a problem if all the ice melts? Yes. Yes, I do.
Have you ever attempted to go see the ice wall, or has anyone you known attempted to go see the ice wall?
I haven't, but we had a couple of our people go down to Antarctica recently. Now, it wasn't to look at the ice wall. And by that, I mean, we're not talking about Game of Thrones ice wall, although when you see pictures of the Antarctic coastline, most of it kind of looks like that. It's ice going up 100 and something feet, higher than most ship bridges. And it goes all the way around, way high, high enough to hold in the water, definitely. But on top of that, most people don't know that Antarctica is the highest continent in terms of elevation on Earth. Most of it is the average height of Antarctica, even by science standards, is 14,000 feet. That's amazing. That's incredible amounts. Altitude sickness kicks in at like half that, 7,000 feet. So if you wanted, a place that was more than high enough to hold the oceans in, well, there you go.
How does the eclipse work in the flat Earth model? Because I'll just mention the documentary.
Right.
It said like the sun looked to like self eclipse, like almost like I guess like the sun turned off on its own,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So, obviously an eclipse is moon in front of sun or opposite way around, whatever it is.
Sure.
But moon in front of sun, but how would it work in the flat Earth model?
Like you said, the first part, it self eclipses, no different. And this is one of the things, in fact, if we could do it in planetariums now because we have the tech, with better screens. But when you go into a planetarium, you can do any sort of moon you want, waxing or waning crescents and new moon and all that stuff. How do you do that in a planetarium? It's not like you have an object running in front of the moon, right, or anything like that. No, you're just shadowing the moon through the software or whatever visual system you're using. You could do that with a sun very easily. It's just nobody thinks about it. Somebody brought that up to me years ago, which is, treat the moon, the planetary moon, and apply it to the sun. It would do the exact same thing. Everything on the ceiling, everything that you see up there is just lights. The sun, the moon, the planets, meteors, which I know you probably not one of your questions, but I love it. There's 6 billion smartphones out there. Find me a single video anywhere of a meteor or shooting star going from sky to ground. Find me a single one. Water impact, land impact. Oh, you might be able to show me a crater or two. Show me it live. Never happens.
Okay. Well, next question. How would gravity work under the flat Earth model? Because typically, gravity pulls towards center mass,
Right.
and the easiest structure to do that in is a sphere, right? Because sphere has a nice, easy center, so that's why everything tends to be a sphere, like planets and the round Earth solar system.
Right.
So why would our planet be flat when science would say kind of pulls everything center
Got
mass?
it. Got it. You can look this up anywhere you want. Science, there's a disclaimer there, which is science will tell you that gravity is a theory, and it is. You can look it up all day long. Neil Tyson said, we can't tell you what gravity is. We can only tell you what it does because we can't reproduce it. Uh, Gravity, essentially, in the science world, is a magical molecular force that pulls things down to a center of a ball. We say it's a magical molecular force that pulls things down, just anywhere. How would you explain it in video games? I'm a big simulation guy. You know, they call it a physics engine for a reason. We had to create, because I come from the video game industry, we had to create fake physics. And how do you do it? Well, you just do it that way. You can make gravity whatever you want, but it's just numbers in a software program. There you go.
So, well, I guess we'll skip the next one. Well, I guess kind of answered this one. Are there any other planets? That's what that we're supposed to say. Or objects in the sky? Are they round, flat? But I know you kind of answered it before.
Well, no, no, they're not there. That's just it. They're not. I mean, they look three-dimensional, but no different than a planetarium. Again, Mars looks like you can land on it in a planetarium, but you can't. Why not? Because it's just a projection. I mean, we've gotten very good. I mean, again, oh, sorry, I must preface this. This world was not made by us. We didn't design everything that's around here. This was made by someone way before us, way older, way more powerful. And I don't want to get into the whole, is it an advanced civilization or is it God? That's for you guys to decide.
Okay. So, what does the government have to gain from, say, if they knew the Earth was flat, hiding this information from the public? What would be the benefits?
Most of it is just general control, which is if you're the highest authority, you can't give a hint that there's someone bigger than you. Because even if you don't know who they are, you can't lean that way because then your authority instantly diminishes. If you all of a sudden admitted, it's like, hey, we're the government, we're the biggest power in the world, whatever it is, doesn't matter which government. Now, this world was built by someone, but it's not us, and it's somebody bigger than us and older than us. As soon as you say that, immediately your authority is taken down like several tiers because at that point people are like, you know what? We don't want to necessarily listen to you as much. We want to talk to those guys. We want to find out what's going on there. Or the Air Force thing, why the Air Force will never officially admit UFOs or somebody else, which is uh, you can't rule the skies if you don't rule the skies. You can't say we're the greatest Air Force in the world, but these things that are flying around can do circles around us all day long, and they've been here for a long, long time. Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite flat Earth experiment that you've done to kind of, I guess, prove flat Earth? What's your favorite one?
My favorite one was the Salton Sea long distance photography experiment, which I had the pleasure of going down and doing with National Geographic, which was we were shooting across a salt lake of 9 miles, and there were balloons on the other side, and they thought they were so clever. It's like, okay, we're gonna put these balloons on the beach, and then we're gonna raise them up slowly because they're helium balloons, and then eventually, when they see them, it's like, see, we popped them up over the curve. The problem was when we got down there, we could see them with our cameras when they were still on the beach. And because we could see them, we kept showing. It's like, I don't even know what you were doing with the experiment. The experiment was ruined, and they never showed it. They never aired that part. And hours worth of footage was absolutely scrapped. And so it's like they had to go to their backup plan. Let's put a raft and a guy in the middle of the lake with some black and white cards. We'll just make something up and then call it whatever we want. It was like, nah, no, it's not what happened. We were there. A
Okay.
lot of us were there.
Okay. I guess next question, although I know you kind of have answered this. Have you had any experiments that have proven, like I mean, like you just mentioned it, proven flat Earth to be true?
Yeah, I again, for me, the thing that gets most people in is long distance photography. You can see too far. That's what people are so visual nowadays. That's the tough part isn't showing people that we can see too far. We can show them people all day long with HD technology. Again, we couldn't do this 30 years ago. The problem is it's trying to explain them the math behind it, which is, then you have to say, oh, hey, there's a curvature formula. But so I simplify it, say, look, eventually something's going to go over the hill. That's not the case anymore. In fact, there's almost no limits to how far you can see off into the distance, with the exception of the thickness of the atmosphere. That's the big one, which is if there was no atmosphere, which is mostly nitrogen and oxygen, right? You would be able to see almost infinitely far, which is what, by the way, what happens in video games, because all video games are drawn flat, by the way, not coincidentally. Everything, Fortnite, Minecraft, GTA, it's all flat, absolutely tabletop flat. We have to build in atmosphere into the video game so that you can't see infinitely far. If it was a vacuum, if our air wasn't here, you would be able to see with a good enough telescope, you would be able to see from California to Japan. You would see Europe from New York, and you would see Mount Everest from everywhere. But because of the atmosphere, you can't.
Sorry, Mark.
Oh
We
no,
had
it's okay.
a medical emergency.
That's all right.
What's wrong? All right. Well, sorry. We
Right.
handled it.
All right. We
Had a
good?
little medical emergency. Had to get him out the room. So,
Okay.
but yeah, sorry about that,
No,
Mark.
no, it's okay. Good recovery.
Okay. Okay. Well, we still got about what, maybe five, yeah, maybe about 5 more minutes. We'll continue on for five
Okay.
more minutes. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So, next question would be, would you go to space if I guess someone offered to send you up?
Yes, I have been offered by several networks. I've said yes, you make it happen. I say yes to everything if I get the chance. Anything they want to propose, if it helps our cause in any way, absolutely. I've told people it's like, look, you can tie me to a chair and throw pies at me. As long as the flat earth is somewhere, as long as I get to wear a flat earth shirt and you don't use frozen pies, then I'm gonna be fine.
Okay. Is there a solar system? And then kind of put in the same question, is your opinion on NASA?
No, there's no solar system at all. There's no space. You're living in a soundstage. That's it. You're living in a big Hollywood backlot. NASA was formed to keep this thing going, to keep us from thinking about uh, the outer wall, the focusing you on space, the military jumping in saying, "Oh, look at all the fun things we're doing in space." And since we've been doing this for the last 10 years, they run space stories daily now. Every freaking day. Doesn't matter if they haven't gone to the moon since 1972, they're going to talk about it. We're going to Mars. You're never going to Mars. They talk about everything in the solar system all the time. They never go anywhere.
Okay. How do you explain the results of the, I guess you can call it two, but kind of one experiment at
Yeah.
the end of that documentary where it was
Oh,
uh
the
the
Jaren
light
experiment?
or the laser, that kind of experiments. I know you kind of the laser test never kind of fell through, but
Again, it was handled badly by our side, which was Jaron in California that was working with the documentary filmmakers. He's like, "Hey, let's find a place and shoot a laser across it, and we'll show that it's tabletop flat. The laser will reach from here to there." We've done laser experiments all the time, but this one went really, really badly because Jaron never checked to see if it was actually flat. He never went out there during the day to see if he had line of sight, meaning you go here, you point at the other end with binoculars, like can you see the other side and measure the level, and never had it to begin with. So, and we did not know this until the documentary had come out, and Jaron caught some hell for it. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You never do it live. That's why they call it dry runs, guys. Never do it live the first time. Always check what you're doing before you do it. You try to do it live the first time, it's never going to work.
okay. So how do you explain, like, for example, in like certain parts of the world where, like, I think it's Alaska or maybe southern tip, northern tip, usually, where they have constant light throughout the year, like it never becomes dark or it's always dark this, all year, for a few
No,
months, then it's always light, and then,
I
how
gotcha.
that kind of data
So
on here.
the 24-hour sun and I know you're not going to be able to see it really well on screen, but the 24-hour sun in the center, Alaska and the Arctic Circle, that's easy to do, right? Because you've got a light source that's just spinning around. Now, 24-hour sun in Antarctica, that's way more problematic. It has always been the weakest part of flat Earth. But do I know what's going on with again, if the entire sky system is just a big light show, we don't know. Definitely, we don't know what's going on up there. Other than it's a light show, we don't know what happens with all the light sources. So 24-hour sun in Antarctica, really a problem. But does it prove flat, does it disprove flat Earth? No, the sky does not really have any bearing on the ground. When you go to a planetarium, does what you see in the sky have any bearing on what the seat structure is on the floor? No.
Okay. Let's see. Well, the question was, can you show us the flat Earth model? You kind of shown us that flat Earth
Yeah,
model
yeah.
now.
That's what most. Go ahead. Go ahead.
What is your favorite book about flat Earth?
Favorite book about flat Earth?
Yeah, favorite book.
Mine. The flat uh which one? Probably the first one. Flat Earth Clues. Sky's the limit. It's
Okay.
it's it's simple.
And then obviously, I mean, I think we kind of researched this, but how does the sun and moon work in the flat Earth model?
It would be very, very tiny, and I know we're running out of time. Very, very tiny and very, very close. That's the thing. When you see the flat Earth models that are drawn, they have to draw the sun and the moon a certain size just so you can see them. But in our model, the sun and the moon are 50 miles wide or less, maybe, and they are really, really close. And if you use that as a light source, that makes a lot more sense. The sun just goes off into the distance because it's so incredibly small, and the atmosphere thickness makes it just fade away. We got amazing videos watching the sun, just go off in the distance and then just evaporate into the thickness of the atmosphere. So very, very small, very, very close.
Okay. Well, we do only have about 4 minutes left in class, so I'll go ahead and let you go. We do appreciate your time. You appreciate your time with us talking and
Thank you.
answering our questions and hanging out and having a good time. We do appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
Like I said, I know my next environmental is not till Monday. Like
got
you
it.
will on Monday, but yeah. But what's up? Oh, well, then I have to get everyone to have a selfie.
What?
Everyone, so people they wanted a selfie with you, and I'm like,
Oh,
work on the. Did you do it next to the board? Yeah. We'll make it quick while we're signing off, I guess.
okay, okay. Do it quick.
But yeah, but we really appreciate your time talking with us,
Thank
answering
you
our
again.
questions. We loved your documentary, or I guess it's not necessarily yours, but we love you in the documentary.
Thanks.
That great stuff. So
Thank you. It
better
was it, wa-
hurry.
it was a pleasure looking forward to your last class on Monday at what time your time?
It would be. I think your time would be around 11 a.m.
Okay.
because our time is six periods starts at basically 1 o'clock flat, right? Yeah. And six periods for us starts 1 o'clock flat, so it'd be for you it'd be 11 a.m. 1 o'clock
Perfect.
All
Perfect.
right. Well, thank you, Mark. I appreciate you.
Thanks,
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Have a good one. Yep.